Hello and welcome to the 14th Bailey Group coronavirus update. We've got a packed programme for you today, almost as packed as Ellen Road will be the first game of the season in the new Premier League when we're back where we belong, of course. As a lot of you know, I'm an ardent Leeds United fan and I'm just so pleased that they're back in the Premier League. So we've got 7 points to go through today. The VAT reduction for those of you who run pubs and clubs and caravan parks and those type of things. An update on the furlough scheme, making tax digital, that changes a bit, so we'll talk about that. Eat Out to Help Out, that scheme where you can take your wife out for a tenner, which is great. Stamp duty, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about a bit of a home energy thing, and then a final piece about apprenticeships and how you can get paid extra for taking someone on. So the first one is the VAT reduction for hospitality. So this means that the VAT rate goes down from 20% to 5% that you have to pay to HMRC on things like food and non-alcoholic drinks, etc., for the hospitality industry. So I've been asked many questions about this. What's hospitality? Well, hospitality industry covers things like pubs, clubs, cafes, things like caravan parks, amusement parks, all that sort of thing, the hospitality industry. So, and then the next question I get asked is, do I have to pass on this to our customers? Well, the short answer is no, you don't. So you could reduce the rate to 5%, and then you could keep the 15% as extra profit. So you've got to decide whether your pub or your club or your cafe or your restaurant can do that. Is it in competition with someone next to you who's doing it? You just got to be careful and look at it sensibly. The flat rate scheme, if you're on the flat rate scheme for VAT, then the percentages there will reduce as well. So you've got to be careful about that. The second piece we want to talk about is the furlough scheme. So the furlough scheme, just to remind you, is the 80% scheme where the government pays 80% of your salaries. So from the 1st of August, it changes slightly. It's 80%, but you have to pay the employer's national insurance and you have to pay the employer's pension. There's no contribution from the government for that. September, it drops to 70%. You still pay the employers on both, and October, it's 60%. So there's just slight changes. The part-time scheme obviously comes in August, so you can have people on part-time and get furlough for them when they're not part-time. And then there's the added bonus that was brought in, £1,000 if they're still employed, and you furloughed them if they're still employed by the end of January. You get a £1,000 bonus from the government. So that's something that you need to think about. Is it worth keeping them on for those 3 or 4 months, or is it just going to be an extra £1,000 in your pocket? Good idea, I think, that one. So the MTD then, making tax digital, 2022 it's now being pushed out to. If you're above or below the threshold of VAT, then you're going to be caught by it now. 2023 self-assessment, so anyone who has got any income over £10,000 will be in it from 2023. This means that you'll have to do quarterly accounts from that date. Now obviously we've been gearing up for this. We've got our scan van that's been on the road now for about 18 months, really well received. For those of you that don't know about the scan van, we send our little man in our van round. He scans all your records into our software, uploads automatically from the software into our accounting software, and then we can then send that directly to HMRC in their preferred format. Works really well, and it's going great guns. The fourth one today is the Eat Out to Help Out, which is the you get £10 off your meal, or 50%, whichever is greater, or whichever is less. Sorry, and that starts from the 1st of August. Again, only Monday to Wednesday, that one, but a lot of restaurants are doing it. A lot of restaurants are thinking about how they're going to cope with it. In other words, what actually physically happens. So if you go in and you have a meal, does every meal count? Does some meals not count? It's complex stuff for restaurants and for cafes and pubs and what have you, but it's a good idea. The claim form will be online. You've just got to put in the number of meals and how much you're claiming. So that should be reasonably straightforward. It's quite a good idea, to be fair, and we'll see how that one goes, I think, is the answer. Stamp duty has been raised to £500,000, so you don't pay stamp duty on properties until you get to that £500,000 limit. questions about this I've been getting. Yes, the 3% is still payable. So when you have a second property, you pay an extra bit of stamp duty. That's still payable. It doesn't get rid of that. So if you bought a property for £400,000 now, you'd still pay the 3% on if it was an extra property. You just wouldn't pay any of the major stamp duty on it. So again, that should kickstart the market a bit. The energy piece that we were talking about, £5,000 to make your home super energy efficient. More details will follow on this. Again, a bit sketchy at the moment, but it sounds like a good scheme. And that will include things like heating systems, insulation, all that sort of thing, double glazing. You just need to understand it with the scheme, and we'll be letting you know more about that as we go on over the next couple of weeks. The apprenticeship scheme, if you take an apprentice, you get £2,000, and then if you put them into training, that you get another £1,000, which is great. If they're over 25 years old, then the 2,000 reduces to 1,500, but you'll still get £1,000 if they're in training. So again, that's a really good little thing that you can do. Any questions on any of those 7, obviously ask us, and we're getting loads of questions coming in about them. Surprisingly, some of our regular contributors have been quiet this week. I can't understand why that is. Probably because other teams in the Championship, like Middlesbrough, just survived from getting relegated, whereas the fantastic Leeds United, the mighty Whites, are back in the Premier League. So that's all I want to say this week. Just remember, marching on together. All the best. Thanks very much.